All right, hi guys. So since your adaptations project is in full swing and you have your research portion due on Monday and then your part two due later in the month, I figured I would come on here and try and give you a little bit of my experience with how this project was run when I did it about a year ago. It was obviously very different because I was in my immersion experience when we did this project. So obviously there's going to be some differences, but I figured I'd go through and show how I applied my knowledge in this project, even if it was a little bit different, and then kind of go into what your task is for this project, and especially for part two, and then also make a little bit of a connection to what you learned this week with evidence-based practices as well. So in my experience, when I did this project, it was called the Collaboration Project, and the main reason for that was because our kind of goal was to collaborate with the teacher in immersion. So we had a teacher that we were assigned to, a class we were assigned to, and we worked with that teacher and also with the student in creating a product. So we addressed the specific need of an actual student that was in our class, and we created a single product. Some people did a tool for that student to use in order to address that need. So overall, the goal for us when we did this project, it was to collaborate with an immersion teacher and student in the design of a unique and personalized tool/product that addresses the student's unmet need. So for my process, in terms of how it differs and is the same as yours, I kind of started with the same type of research. We found out a need and then researched that need and strategies for addressing the need. The differences would be that I learned more about the specific students' likes, their hobbies, their pastimes. So I got some student input from that because I was working with an actual student. Similarly, I talked to teachers about his need and I got that teacher input that was specialized for this student that you don't necessarily get for this project, but that was something that we were able to do. And lastly, we created a product tool specifically for a student that they would hypothetically use in the classroom in order to address that need. Your product is going to be slightly different because it's not going to be for a specific student. And I put a little slide in terms of what my final product and what my project actually ended up looking like. So to give you a little background, my student, as I observed and talked to the student, I learned that they were incredibly imaginative, they loved drawing, and they especially loved Minecraft. And then the unmet need that I observed and also talked to the teacher, the collaborating teacher with about was an attention, focusing, and it was especially I noticed during ELA and math, which are core subjects for them. And then the research that I did, I found that a tool for self-monitoring or for self-reporting that could be used largely independently of teachers would be really beneficial for a student who has trouble attention or keeping their attention in class or focusing during instruction, activities, stuff like that. So in the end, when I created my product, it was a singular product, and I created a personalized notebook that contained a behavior rating scale. And as you can see from the picture, I created a little Minecraft character on the front of the notebook and put the name, which is a pseudonym, of course, but it was to make sure that that is a personalized and exciting tool for the student to be using. So in this tool, I said that Liam would rate himself on his behavior after both ELA and math periods, and I said he would be doing this every day. So the inside of the notebook would be broken down into weeks and by day and by math and ELA. So after every period of math on Monday, he would rate himself. And the same thing would go with math, or the same thing would go with math, yeah. And then he would do that every day for a week. And then my plan was, hypothetically, that at the end of a certain time frame, Liam would review his ratings with teachers and kind of go over his self-reporting and see how well he did in a certain period of time, whether it be a month, 2 months, whatever. It could depend on how far along he is in using this product. So for you, your task is slightly different, but the first part, which is due on Monday, is going to be very similar to what I did in terms of research. So you've all been assigned a specific unmet need. And the first thing you're going to do is conduct that research. So what is being published in current literature about what this need looks like, and how it manifests itself. So what is being said in literature about what this need is, how it presents itself in the classroom, what behaviors to look for, stuff like that. So just describing that need in general. Then your second part is researching and choosing specific strategies. So you're going to research strategies that could meet that need. And these can be individual and they should be collective. So you're going to have individual strategies that could apply to a specific student, you could use for an individual, but also you want to have some collective strategies as well that could kind of translate over into a whole group benefiting. You want to have you could have some that the whole class benefits from. And in this little bubble, I put connect with the educator/provider that Carrie assigned to your group. This is especially important considering that you don't have a specific student, you only really have a specific need. So it's really important to talk to these teachers and providers that have firsthand experience with addressing the need that you are researching and the need that you're trying to address in your product. So talking to them before you go into like choosing your strategies is a really, really important resource for you, just because these teachers have firsthand experience, like I said, and you should get some of their input before choosing those strategies because they could really have some different ideas that you could incorporate into your product. So for mine, if I'm thinking about my research that I did and I'm thinking about what other strategies I could have chosen to implement in my specific product for Liam, one was a distracting thoughts journal space. So students can put their thoughts to rest, the things that distract them, and they can better remain more focused than they would otherwise. And it's kind of a form of self-monitoring, which was part of my research in addressing attention and focus needs. And then the second one that I thought about was a possible set of brain break cards that the student can hand to a teacher or an aide in the classroom when they feel that they need to step away from work or they need to step away from a class activity that's overwhelming them or they're getting distracted during class instruction. So they'd have a limited amount of those per day that they could use. So again, self-monitoring, being able to understand when they're getting distracted and learning how and when to say, you know what, I need a break. And it's also very autonomous. They have control over when they use those cards. And then also it can translate into a whole class break. So thinking about those collective strategies, those brain breaks are perfect for a whole class, and you could use the students handing in of that brain break card in order to transition into a little brain break for the whole class. So it keeps that student involved as well in a collective strategy rather than just an individual one. So your overall goal is to create an accessible and creative product that's going to compile both the information that you learned about your assigned unmet need that you researched mostly in part 1. So you're going to define and describe how the unmet need manifests in students. What does it look like? What behaviors do you look for if you're trying to decide what need is unmet in a particular student? And then 2, you want to have the individual and collective evidence-based strategies that you found would support that unmet need through your research on strategies and practices. So you're going to provide and you're going to outline your strategies so that another one of your peers, another teacher could utilize this product in order to implement those strategies. So they should be described enough that someone could pick this up and be able to immediately be able to use that strategy. And then lastly, a little bit of a connection to evidence-based practices, which the group talked about this week. There's a certain unmet need, or certain unmet needs are more common or more recognized than others. And often those needs in education are going to be researched and can be addressed through evidence-based practices. So as a whole, evidence-based practices exist to give us a really broad collection of proven practices that we can use when that certain need presents itself in a student. So, and generally broad practices like EBPs are not always directed at a specific student right away, but it's a collection that you can build up and add to your toolkit. And also those student preferences can be taken into account when it's necessary.